Ladies and gentlemen, most men go through life without ever thinking about their prostate. It sits quietly beneath the bladder, doing its job without complaint until one day it sends a message. A discomfort, a heaviness, a dull ache, reminding you it exists. This small walnut-sized gland plays a crucial role in your reproductive system, yet it's often the most ignored part of a man's body. When we talk about daily habits like masturbation, we're not just talking about pleasure, we're talking about how this hidden gland responds, adapts, and sometimes even suffers. The prostate is not silent. It speaks through action, through balance, through how you treat it every day. Each time a man ejaculates, whether through sex or masturbation, something fascinating happens inside his body. The prostate contracts, squeezing out fluid that mixes with sperm from the testicles. This process isn't just for reproduction, it's also nature's way of keeping the gland clean. Think of it like an engine that needs to run regularly so that oil doesn't settle and thicken. When the prostate releases fluid, it's flushing out older secretions that could otherwise stagnate and cause discomfort or infection. In a healthy rhythm, this keeps the prostate active, clear, and functioning properly. Now imagine the opposite, long periods without ejaculation. The fluid remains stored, and while it doesn't necessarily cause disease, it can create a sense of pressure or fullness over time. That's why many urologists suggest that moderate ejaculation is beneficial. It helps to circulate new fluid, reduce inflammation, and keep the gland healthy. Masturbation, in that sense, isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a natural biological function that maintains internal flow. The prostate, much like your heart or lungs, needs movement. Stillness or stagnation can make it sluggish, but the body is not a machine that runs on repetition alone. Every release is also a conversation between your brain and your hormones. When you feel arousal, your nervous system sends signals to the prostate, telling it to prepare for action. Blood flow increases, muscles tighten slightly, and the gland readies itself to contract. This kind of activation is healthy. It's part of what keeps the prostate responsive. Yet if this process happens excessively, day after day without rest, the gland can become irritated. Think of it like a runner who never takes a day off. Even the strongest muscles can grow sore. The prostate, though resilient, needs time to recover after repeated contractions. Daily masturbation in moderation is not inherently dangerous. In fact, many studies show that men who ejaculate regularly have a lower risk of prostate-related conditions later in life. But the key word here is balance. When done compulsively or without physical and mental rest, the prostate begins to react. Some men may feel a dull ache between the legs or a sense of tightness in the pelvic area. These are small whispers from your body saying, "Slow down." Ignoring them can lead to mild inflammation known as prostatitis, a condition often mistaken for infection. What's truly fascinating is how this small gland mirrors your lifestyle. When you're healthy, hydrated, and active, the prostate tends to stay quiet and cooperative. But when you sit for long hours, stay dehydrated, and add constant sexual stimulation, it becomes irritated. The tissues swell slightly, circulation slows, and you may feel sensitivity after ejaculation. The body is simply asking for rhythm, for variation. Masturbating daily can be healthy if you balance it with physical movement, rest, and hydration. The prostate also responds to emotional energy. When you're stressed or anxious, your pelvic muscles tighten subconsciously. That tension affects the prostate too, because it's surrounded by muscles and nerves that react to your emotional state. If you use masturbation as a stress relief tool every single day, the prostate becomes a physical participant in your emotional coping mechanism. While that might feel soothing temporarily, it can create a pattern where your gland is constantly activated. It's not the act that's unhealthy, it's the lack of rest between emotional and physical cycles. When men begin to understand their prostate not as a problem but as a partner in health, everything changes. You start to notice its signals. The light pressure, the sense of release, the warmth after orgasm, these are not random sensations. They are the language of your body communicating balance or imbalance. When you masturbate daily, it's worth asking yourself, am I doing this because my body desires release or because my mind is seeking escape? That question alone determines whether your prostate thrives or tires. So, what happens to the prostate when you masturbate every day? It works faithfully, efficiently, and continuously. It contracts, releases, refreshes itself, and contributes to your overall health. But it also reminds you to respect its limits. It loves movement but not overuse. It appreciates attention but not obsession. And above all, it functions best when your mind and body work together. Your prostate is not silent. It speaks through balance, through the rhythm of your habits, and through how much you listen to what your body is telling you. When most people think about masturbation, they think of pleasure, release, or relaxation, but rarely do they think of it as a biological cleansing process. Yet that's exactly what happens inside the male body every time ejaculation occurs. Deep within the pelvis, the prostate gland, a walnut-sized organ that sits just below the bladder, fills and empties as part of the body's natural reproductive rhythm. When you masturbate and reach orgasm, the prostate contracts, releasing seminal fluid through the urethra. This release is more than just a moment of pleasure. It's the body's hidden detox mechanism, flushing out old fluids and microscopic waste that would otherwise linger inside the gland. The prostate is not just a passive storage tank, it's a living, active organ that constantly produces prostatic fluid, one of the main components of semen. When you go long periods without ejaculation, this fluid can accumulate, stagnate, and slightly thicken inside the gland. Over time, this buildup can cause mild discomfort, pressure, or even inflammation. It's your body's way of saying it needs movement, circulation, and flow. When men masturbate or have sex, they're not just relieving sexual tension, they're giving the prostate the opportunity to renew itself. It's nature's maintenance cycle, one designed to keep the system clean and healthy. Scientists have studied this process closely. One landmark Harvard study found that men who ejaculated 21 times or more each month had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer compared to those who did it less frequently. The reason researchers believe is that regular ejaculation helps remove harmful substances and old cellular debris from the prostate ducts. Just like the body eliminates waste through sweat, urine, and digestion, ejaculation serves as another outlet, one that specifically benefits the male reproductive system. So yes, the body treats sexual release as part of its detox routine. This process also affects the hormonal environment. When you ejaculate, your body temporarily shifts its levels of testosterone, prolactin, and oxytocin. These fluctuations are completely natural and help maintain hormonal balance. The prostate, being sensitive to these hormones, reacts positively when this rhythm stays consistent and moderate. Think of it as resetting your internal chemistry. The release signals the body to produce fresh seminal fluid, stimulating circulation, oxygen flow, and nutrient delivery to the prostate. That's why many men report feeling lighter, calmer, and more balanced after healthy sexual activity. It's a mix of hormonal and physical rejuvenation. But here's where moderation matters. Just like detoxing too often can leave you weak, masturbating excessively without rest can leave your prostate irritated. Every contraction uses muscular effort, and every release triggers a small inflammatory response as tissues recover. If this happens multiple times daily, the gland doesn't get the downtime it needs to heal. That can lead to soreness or pelvic discomfort, not because masturbation is harmful, but because the body is overworked. A daily rhythm is fine for most men, but when it turns into multiple times per day, that's when fatigue begins to show. The prostate, much like your heart or liver, thrives on rhythm and recovery. What's more fascinating is how the act itself influences mental and emotional well-being. Ejaculation releases dopamine and endorphins, the same chemicals that reduce stress and anxiety. These hormones promote calmness, improve sleep, and lower tension in the pelvic muscles. This mental relaxation indirectly benefits the prostate by reducing nerve and muscle strain in the surrounding area. In short, when your mind relaxes, your body, including your prostate, breathes easier. So masturbation, in its pure and moderate form, acts as both a mental release and a physical detox. However, the key is awareness. If you find yourself relying on masturbation not for pleasure but to escape boredom, loneliness, or anxiety, then the detox process turns into emotional overuse. The body starts to confuse relaxation with exhaustion. You might feel drained instead of energized, heavy instead of light. The prostate continues to function, but the emotional imbalance affects the hormonal and muscular systems connected to it. Your body is trying to purify itself, but your mind keeps sending mixed signals. The truth is, the prostate doesn't judge your habits, it simply responds to them. When you masturbate daily in a healthy, mindful way, you're keeping your system active, your circulation flowing, and your gland clean. You're supporting the body's built-in detox system that evolution designed for you. But when you do it excessively or compulsively, you turn that cleansing cycle into a stress cycle. The difference lies not in frequency alone, but in intention and balance. So what happens to the prostate of men who masturbate every day? For most, it becomes healthier, cleaner, and better circulated, provided it's done with balance and care. Each release helps the gland renew itself, eliminating old fluids and stimulating new production. It's the body's quiet, natural way of staying clean from the inside out. The truth is simple: masturbation, in moderation, doesn't harm the prostate, it supports it, as long as you remember that even the healthiest system needs rest between cycles to function at its best. Pleasure heals until it becomes an addiction. This single line captures one of the deepest truths about how the male body works, especially when it comes to the prostate. Masturbation itself isn't harmful. In fact, it's a natural, healthy act that supports both physical and emotional balance. The problem begins when it crosses the invisible line between choice and compulsion. The prostate, though strong and efficient, is not built to handle constant stimulation without rest. It thrives in rhythm, not repetition. When a man masturbates daily with awareness, his body adapts beautifully. But when the act becomes excessive, multiple times a day, or done mindlessly, the very gland that once benefited begins to show signs of strain. Inside the body, the prostate is an intelligent structure. Its muscles contract to release fluid during ejaculation and then relax to reset for the next cycle. Each contraction and relaxation requires energy and recovery, much like any other muscle group. Imagine flexing your hand hundreds of times without a break. Eventually, the muscles tighten, fatigue sets in, and small inflammations begin to appear. The same principle applies to your prostate. When you overuse it, it doesn't have time to recover from the constant stimulation. The tiny ducts that release prostatic fluid may become congested, leading to sensations of heaviness or pressure in the lower abdomen or groin area. These are not warning signs of something serious. They're simply your body's way of saying, slow down. One of the biggest misconceptions about masturbation is that more is better. Many men believe that frequent ejaculation can only bring health benefits, lowering cancer risk, improving sleep, and reducing stress. While these points hold true in moderation, the equation changes when balance disappears. The body's systems, nervous, hormonal, muscular, and reproductive, are interconnected. When one is overworked, the rest begin to feel the strain. Too much stimulation can desensitize the nervous system, making arousal more difficult over time. It can also cause low-level inflammation in the prostate or pelvic muscles, resulting in discomfort after ejaculation or during urination. The truth is, your body always seeks equilibrium. Masturbation once a day can be perfectly fine if you're healthy, hydrated, and emotionally balanced. But if you notice fatigue, decreased motivation, or soreness in the pelvic region, it might be your body signaling for rest. The prostate is remarkably adaptive, but it's not invincible. When inflammation starts to build, even at a microscopic level, the gland becomes more sensitive. This can make arousal feel different, even less pleasurable, and in some cases it can lead to mild prostatitis, a condition where the gland becomes irritated. There's also a psychological side to this balance. The brain and the prostate are deeply connected through the nervous system. Every time you masturbate, dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, surges, creating a rewarding sensation. But when that surge happens too frequently, the brain's receptors start to dull in response. What once felt exciting now feels ordinary, and so the person seeks more stimulation, longer sessions, or more intense imagery. It becomes a loop, one that keeps the brain chasing excitement while the body grows exhausted. This cycle doesn't just tire the mind, it physically impacts the prostate by keeping it in a constant state of readiness, a low-level tension that prevents it from fully relaxing. Many men who experience chronic pelvic tension or mild pain after masturbation don't realize this connection. They think something is wrong with their body when, in fact, their body is simply overworked. It's like running your car engine all day without turning it off. Even the most efficient system eventually overheats. The prostate needs rest days, just as your muscles need recovery after exercise. When given that time, it rejuvenates, blood flow improves, inflammation subsides, and sensitivity returns to normal. There's another layer to this story: emotional health. Many men use masturbation as an escape from stress, loneliness, or anxiety. In the short term, it works. It floods the brain with calming hormones and releases physical tension. But when it becomes the main coping mechanism, the emotional body remains unhealed. The act becomes less about pleasure and more about relief. The prostate, unfortunately, becomes the physical target of emotional overload. Over time, it reflects this imbalance through discomfort, fatigue, or lack of satisfaction. To understand this better, think of masturbation as a language your body uses to communicate when done mindfully, with awareness, moderation, and care. It says, I'm healthy, alive, and connected. But when it becomes excessive or emotion-driven, it says, I'm tired, I need rest. The key is learning to listen. When your body feels lighter after release, you're in balance. When you feel drained or heavy, it's time to step back. Daily masturbation, when practiced consciously, can support prostate health and relieve tension. But when it turns into an unconscious habit, the balance shifts. The prostate becomes congested, the body fatigued, and the mind restless. The line between healing and harm is incredibly thin, and it all depends on awareness. Your body never lies. It speaks through sensations, energy levels, and emotional states. If you learn to listen, you'll know exactly when to act and when to rest. Pleasure can indeed heal, but only when it flows in harmony with the rhythm of your body. Every time a man reaches climax, an invisible yet powerful wave of hormonal change moves through his body. It's not just pleasure. It's chemistry, it's rhythm, it's balance. The body doesn't treat masturbation as an isolated event. It treats it as a hormonal message, one that the prostate listens to carefully. Inside this delicate communication between brain and gland lies the truth about how daily sexual activity affects men's hormonal health. The prostate is a hormone-sensitive organ. It reacts to testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, DHT, prolactin, and even cortisol. So every release tells your hormones a story. But the question is, are you listening? When arousal begins, the brain sends signals to the endocrine system, specifically the hypothalamus and pituitary gland. These command centers release hormones that activate testosterone production. Blood flow increases in the genital region, the prostate swells slightly, and it prepares for ejaculation. During this process, testosterone works like fuel. It sharpens focus, boosts confidence, and increases libido. The prostate in turn responds by producing seminal fluid rich in enzymes and nutrients. Everything is in harmony like a perfect orchestra: brain, hormones, and body working together for one natural purpose. But the moment ejaculation happens, the chemistry shifts. After orgasm, levels of prolactin, a hormone often associated with relaxation and satisfaction, rise sharply. This sudden spike acts like a biological brake, temporarily lowering testosterone and dopamine. That's why immediately after orgasm, men feel calm or sleepy rather than alert. This is not weakness, it's nature's design. The body uses this hormonal dip to signal recovery time. The prostate, having worked hard to contract and release its fluid, now enters a brief phase of relaxation and regeneration. However, when masturbation becomes a daily, even compulsive habit, this hormonal rhythm can be disrupted. Constant stimulation doesn't allow testosterone and dopamine levels to stabilize fully between sessions. The result, a subtle hormonal fatigue that can show up as reduced energy, decreased motivation, or less powerful arousal over time. This doesn't mean daily masturbation is harmful. It means the hormonal cycle needs balance. The body functions on peaks and valleys. If the peaks come too frequently, the valleys deepen. The prostate feels these hormonal waves more than any other gland in the male body. It's extremely sensitive to testosterone and DHT, which regulate its growth, function, and secretions. When testosterone remains in balance, the prostate stays strong and healthy. But when hormone levels fluctuate excessively due to lifestyle stress or overstimulation, the gland reacts. Some men experience mild swelling, tenderness, or changes in fluid consistency. These are not signs of disease, they're signs of hormonal imbalance manifesting through one of the body's most hormone-dependent organs. Beyond testosterone and prolactin, there's another key player, oxytocin, the bonding and relaxation hormone. After orgasm, oxytocin levels rise, creating feelings of warmth and emotional calm. This hormone plays a subtle but powerful role in prostate health because it relaxes the muscles around the gland and improves blood circulation in moderation. This is deeply beneficial. But when sexual activity is driven by compulsion or emotional stress, oxytocin loses its natural balance with dopamine, leading to emotional numbness rather than comfort. The hormonal story becomes chaotic. The body releases soothing chemicals, but the mind stays restless. Science has shown that hormonal stability depends on overall lifestyle. A man who eats well, sleeps enough, and exercises regularly can handle daily sexual activity without issue. His body resets efficiently, his testosterone remains strong, and his prostate stays healthy. But when sleep is poor, stress is high, and the body is exhausted, the same daily release can drain hormonal reserves. Over time, this can dull libido and slow recovery. The prostate, always listening to hormonal signals, adjusts accordingly. It may become more sluggish or more easily irritated. It's important to understand that these hormonal fluctuations are not inherently bad. They are part of a natural cycle. The body is meant to rise and fall, to charge and release. Problems occur only when there's no balance between the two. Masturbating daily isn't a sin against your hormones. It's an act that requires awareness. If you feel alert, energized, and emotionally centered afterward, your hormones are in harmony. But if you feel drained, foggy, or indifferent, your hormonal system is signaling overload. The beauty of the human body is that it always seeks equilibrium. The prostate doesn't just respond to hormones, it also helps regulate them. When the gland functions well, it promotes better blood flow and nutrient exchange in the pelvic region, which in turn supports testosterone production. This means a healthy prostate contributes to hormonal strength, and balanced hormones keep the prostate healthy. It's a continuous feedback loop. The secret, then, isn't to stop or suppress your natural urges, it's to move with awareness, to understand that every release sends hormonal ripples throughout your system. Respect those ripples. Give your body time to reset before creating another wave. Hormones are like tides. They must rise and fall naturally to nourish life. The prostate is your internal witness to this rhythm, quietly responding to every shift, every signal, every moment of balance or imbalance. If you learn to listen, your hormones will guide you towards stability, strength, and lasting health. The connection between a man's mind and his prostate runs deeper than most realize. Every emotion, every thought, every stress that lingers in the body finds its way into the muscles and nerves that surround this small gland. When the mind is calm, the prostate functions smoothly, blood flows freely, muscles relax, and hormones remain balanced. But when the mind is restless or burdened, tension begins to build invisibly in the pelvic region. This is why men who carry chronic stress often feel it as tightness or discomfort below the waist. The prostate doesn't speak through words, it speaks through sensation, and it listens closely to your emotions. When a man masturbates, it's not just a physical act, it's a neurological event that links the brain and the body in a powerful feedback loop. The moment arousal begins, the brain releases dopamine, the hormone of desire and reward. As pleasure builds, endorphins flood the bloodstream, easing tension and soothing anxiety. By the time orgasm arrives, the entire nervous system experiences a brief moment of reset, stress dissolves, heart rate slows, and the body releases built-up tension. In moderation, this is incredibly healthy. It's nature's built-in relaxation system, a mechanism that helps keep both the brain and the prostate balanced. However, when masturbation turns into a daily coping mechanism for stress, anxiety, or boredom, the balance starts to shift. The act becomes less about pleasure and more about escape. Instead of helping the body release tension, it starts masking it. The brain grows dependent on the dopamine surge for comfort, and the nervous system forgets how to calm itself naturally. Each release provides temporary relief but leaves behind a subtle emotional emptiness. The prostate, being connected to this system, begins to experience the consequences. The constant activation without mental peace can lead to pelvic muscle tightness and a feeling of pressure or irritation. This happens because the prostate sits at the crossroads of emotion and biology. It's surrounded by nerves that communicate directly with the spinal cord, the same network that processes stress responses. When you're anxious or frustrated, those pelvic nerves stay slightly activated even when you're not aroused. Over time, that chronic muscle tension can affect circulation, cause mild inflammation, and make the prostate more sensitive. It's not that the gland itself is damaged, it's that it's being asked to function under emotional strain. Just as the heart suffers when stress is constant, so does the prostate when the mind never truly rests. Masturbation in a calm, present state can actually be healing for the prostate. It relaxes the pelvic muscles, improves blood flow, and lowers the stress hormone cortisol. But when done in a state of anxiety, guilt, or compulsion, it produces the opposite effect. The body releases dopamine quickly but drops it just as fast afterward, leaving the brain craving more. This constant rise and fall creates emotional fatigue, and the gland itself feels that fatigue as well. Through congestion, heaviness, or loss of satisfaction, it's as if the body keeps shouting for rest, but the mind keeps pressing the gas pedal. Men often underestimate how deeply emotions influence physical health. When anger, loneliness, or self-criticism are suppressed, they don't disappear. They settle somewhere in the body. For many men, that somewhere is the pelvic region. That's why conditions like chronic pelvic pain syndrome are often linked not just to infection, but to stress and tension. The prostate becomes the container for all the pressure the mind refuses to release in healthy ways. If masturbation becomes the only outlet for emotional stress, the cycle continues indefinitely. Temporary relief followed by long-term imbalance. The key lies in awareness. When a man masturbates with mindfulness, focusing on sensation, breathing, and connection rather than rushing for release, the body responds differently. Blood flows evenly, muscles stay relaxed, and the prostate experiences true relief. The act becomes a form of emotional balance, not avoidance. It's the difference between calming your mind and escaping your thoughts. The prostate recognizes that difference. It thrives when your mind is calm and reacts when your mind is restless. A healthy prostate needs more than just clean habits, it needs a peaceful nervous system. Regular exercise, meditation, deep breathing, and quality sleep all contribute to lowering tension in the pelvic area. These habits allow the gland to work in harmony with the brain, not against it. When you live in balance, you don't need to rely on sexual release to feel calm. It becomes a natural part of life, not the only path to relief. The mind and prostate are partners in well-being. The moment one is at peace, the other follows. But when the mind uses the body as its only escape, the body eventually begins to protest. Every man should learn to recognize that balance, the point where pleasure becomes restoration, not exhaustion. The secret isn't to suppress desire, but to align it with mindfulness. Because the prostate doesn't only respond to what you do, it responds to how you feel when you do it. And that emotional truth can mean the difference between tension and tranquility, imbalance and vitality. Ladies and gentlemen, it all comes down to one word: balance. Balance is the real secret to prostate power. Not the extremes of indulgence or abstinence, but the calm rhythm in between. Every man's body speaks a different language, but the message is always the same: harmony keeps you healthy. Your prostate isn't a mechanical switch that simply turns on and off. It's a living, responsive gland that thrives on consistency, nourishment, and respect. When you find balance in how you treat your body, including how often you release, your prostate finds peace. Some men think the answer to health is to stop completely, while others believe in pushing limits daily. But the truth is much simpler. It's not about how often you do it, it's about how you do it. Each release, when done mindfully, is a conversation between your body and your mind. When you masturbate without guilt, without rushing, and with awareness of your body's rhythm, it becomes a healthy expression, not an escape or an obsession. This mindful engagement allows blood to circulate properly through the pelvic region, reducing stagnation that could otherwise lead to inflammation. On the other hand, when release becomes mechanical, rushed, or compulsive, it creates tension in the same area it's meant to relax. The prostate, like any other organ, reacts to emotional and physical stress. When the brain is under pressure, the pelvic muscles tighten unconsciously, trapping tension around the gland. Balance in this context means allowing both the mind and body to rest after pleasure, giving the system time to reset and regenerate. You see, your prostate isn't an isolated structure. It's part of a complex orchestra, one that includes your hormones, nervous system, and emotional well-being. When testosterone, dopamine, and serotonin play in harmony, your prostate performs beautifully. But when you push the body too hard, whether through exhaustion or excessive stimulation, that harmony breaks. The result: irritation, hormonal imbalance, and sometimes fatigue that feels deeper than the body. The key is to let every act of pleasure follow the natural rhythm of your energy. When you're well rested, hydrated, and mentally calm, your release supports your prostate's health. When you're drained, anxious, or using it as a distraction, the body reads it differently, as strain, not healing. Think of the prostate as the heart of your reproductive system. It needs good circulation, oxygen, and nutrients to stay strong. Balance means giving it those things every day, not just through release, but through the way you live. Hydration keeps the prostate fluid thin and flowing, while physical activity improves blood supply to the pelvic region. Sitting too long, on the other hand, compresses the area and causes sluggish flow, leading to congestion and discomfort. Even simple daily stretches or walks can do wonders. When you pair that with balanced release habits, neither too frequent nor too rare, the prostate functions at its best capacity. Diet also plays a huge role in this balance. Foods rich in zinc, omega-3s, and antioxidants, like pumpkin seeds, salmon, and berries, nourish the gland from when these nutrients support cell regeneration, reduce inflammation, and enhance overall function. A balanced diet complements a balanced habit. Your body doesn't just heal through medicine or abstinence, it heals through small, consistent acts of care. The prostate's natural power lies in its ability to adapt, but it can only do that when you give it a stable environment. And let's not forget the mind. Stress, guilt, and shame have direct pathways to your hormones and nervous system. When your brain sends signals of anxiety, your body responds with muscle tension, hormonal disruption, and even changes in fluid composition. That's why balance also means emotional peace. It means understanding that sexual health isn't something to fear or suppress, it's something to respect. When you let go of shame and replace it with awareness, your body starts working with you, not against you. So, whether you choose to release daily, weekly, or at any rhythm your body prefers, the focus should be on awareness, not frequency. When done consciously, with care for hydration, movement, rest, and nutrition, masturbation becomes part of a healthy lifestyle, not a threat to it. Your prostate doesn't want control or chaos, it wants cooperation. It wants to function freely without pressure or neglect. Balance doesn't mean counting days or measuring frequency. It means understanding the signals your body gives you, the moments it asks for rest, and the moments it seeks release. When you honor that cycle, you build not just a stronger prostate, but a stronger sense of self. Because true health is not about denial or indulgence. It's about knowing when to act and when to pause, and that balance, that mindful rhythm, is where the real secret to prostate power lies.